The M1 Garand is often praised as a hero of war, but no one talks about what it demanded in return. Every trigger pull revealed your position, every reload left you defenseless, and every man who carried this rifle had to walk straight into gunfire with nothing but boots, breath, and steel. This is the story of the weapon that changed warfare and the men who paid the price. February 1945, Iwo Jima. A Marine's clip ejects, ping. Japanese soldiers 30 yards away hear it. They charge. He fumbles the reload. The bolt slams forward, catching his thumb. Blood runs down the stock. The rifle is still empty. 3 seconds that felt like eternity. This wasn't a rare occurrence. This was the reality for millions of American soldiers who carried what General George Patton called the greatest battle implement ever devised. The M1 Garand gave them power, but that power came with a target painted on their backs. The rifle's greatest strength was its speed. A Garand gunner could fire 8 rounds as fast as he could pull the trigger. No bolt to work between shots. In the chaos of combat, this made him lethal. It also made him visible. Enemy forces quickly learned that rapid, sustained fire meant one thing: a Garand. And Garands became priority targets. Unlike machine gunners who had crews to share the burden, every Garand carrier fought alone. There was no shared responsibility. Every shot was deliberate. Every outcome was personal. The distance between pulling the trigger and watching a body fall was measured in fractions of a second. For many men, this immediacy left scars that never healed. To understand why soldiers carried this burden, you need to understand where it came from. World War I taught the United States Army a brutal lesson. Modern war wasn't about careful, aimed shots anymore. It was about speed, volume, and who could put more bullets downrange faster. American soldiers with slow bolt-action rifles were being cut down by machine guns that fired continuously. The Army realized that if infantry were going to survive the next war, they needed rifles that could fire as fast as they could pull the trigger. After 1918, the U.S. Ordnance Department began searching for a self-loading rifle. The challenge was immense. Rifle cartridges packed enormous power, and early designs broke apart after a few shots. Make them strong enough to survive, and they became too heavy to carry. Make them lighter, and the power dropped, which the Army refused to accept. Then came John Cantius Garand. Born in Quebec in 1888, he wasn't a formally trained engineer. He learned his trade in textile mills, working his way up from a bobbin boy to a skilled machinist. He taught himself forging, welding, and steam engineering. When World War I ended, he turned his self-taught genius toward a problem that had stumped trained engineers for years. Garand's breakthrough was elegant. Use the gas from a fired bullet to cycle the action. The rifle would reload itself using the very force, trying to push the bullet downrange. After years of testing and refinement, his design proved both reliable and powerful. In 1936, the U.S. Army officially adopted the M1 Garand as its standard infantry rifle. For the first time in history, American soldiers would carry semi-automatic rifles as their primary weapon. As war spread across Europe and tensions grew with Japan, production ramped up. By the time Pearl Harbor was attacked, the race was on to equip every soldier with this revolutionary weapon. The M1 Garand was a working tool, built for one purpose: putting bullets on target faster than the enemy could respond. It weighed 9.5 pounds empty, nearly 11.5 loaded. This weight helped absorb the recoil from the powerful .30-06 Springfield cartridge, keeping the rifle steady even during rapid fire. The long barrel delivered accuracy that remains impressive even by modern standards. A well-maintained M1 could place tight groupings at distances that would make today's rifles jealous. The rifle used an 8-round en-bloc clip loaded from the top. When all 8 rounds were fired, the empty clip ejected automatically with that famous metallic ping. The sound has been exaggerated in movies, but it was real. The M1's durability became legendary. It functioned in mud, sand, rain, snow, and jungle humidity. The internal parts were built to last through abuse that would destroy lesser weapons. While more expensive to produce than bolt-action rifles, the cost came with performance that justified every penny. One issue earned its own name: Garand thumb. If you weren't careful during reloading, the bolt could slam forward and catch your thumb with devastating force. This wasn't a design flaw, it was a training issue. Proper technique prevented it. But in the chaos of combat, with shaking hands and enemy fire incoming, mistakes happened. Many soldiers wore the blackened thumbnail as an unofficial badge of their service. The M1 Garand's real story didn't begin in factories. It began the moment bullets started flying back. December 8, 1941. Japanese forces invaded the Philippines, and the M1 saw combat for the first time. American and Filipino troops carried a mix of weapons: M1903 bolt-actions, M1917 Enfields, and the new M1 Garands in limited numbers. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, something strange happened. Japanese soldiers reported that American infantrymen seemed to be carrying light machine guns. The volume of fire was unlike anything they'd expected from rifles. Colonel Philip Fry of the 57th Philippine Scout Infantry Regiment watched his men use their Garands to repulse a Japanese attack in January 1942. "It was a slaughter," he reported. "The firepower of a battalion armed with modern weapons is something. The Garand rifle is beyond my descriptive powers." General Douglas MacArthur sent word back to the factories: "The Garand rifle has proved itself excellent in combat in the Philippines." But praise couldn't save the defenders. When Bataan fell in April 1942, survivors destroyed their remaining Garands to keep them from Japanese hands. The rifle had proven itself, but the Philippines campaign ended in defeat and misery. As the war expanded, the M1 followed American troops across the globe. In North Africa, it faced German forces. In Italy, it survived rain, snow, and mountain combat. Each battlefield added proof that the rifle could handle conditions worse than peacetime engineers ever imagined. The Pacific became the ultimate test. Heat, humidity, thick jungle, and hidden defenders punished any weapon with weakness. On Guadalcanal, New Guinea, Saipan, and Okinawa, the M1 proved reliable in close-range fights where visibility was measured in feet, not yards. Its powerful round punched through foliage and light fortifications where lighter weapons failed. In Europe after D-Day, the M1's dominance became absolute. Early in Normandy, some officers preferred the lighter M1 carbine. Combat quickly exposed its limits. It lacked range and stopping power, especially in towns and forests. Soldiers swapped back to the Garand whenever possible. The full-sized cartridge gave confidence. It could break doors, punch through walls, and reach targets across open fields. By late 1944, the debate was over. The M1 Garand was no longer the new rifle. It was the standard. Weight no longer mattered when firepower saved lives, but every advantage came with a cost paid in blood and sanity. The rifle's rate of fire made Garand carriers priority targets. Rapid semi-automatic fire sounded different from bolt-action rifles. Enemy soldiers learned to identify it, target it, eliminate it first. Standing still meant death. The rifle demanded forward movement, constant aggression, putting yourself in the most dangerous positions on the battlefield. In the Pacific, the horror intensified. Japanese attacks came suddenly, often in waves of soldiers charging directly at defensive positions. Garand gunners had to stop these assaults, watching men fall yards away, sometimes so close they could see faces. The speed of the M1 meant no pause, no moment to process what was happening. Fire until the threat stopped moving, then fire again to be sure. The jungle environment added another layer of fear. Visibility was 10 feet on a good day. Targets appeared and vanished in seconds. A Garand gunner had to react instantly or die. The 9.5 pounds felt manageable in training. After days of marching through heat and mud without rest, it felt like 50. Fatigue slowed reactions. Hesitation was fatal. In Europe, urban combat brought different terrors, clearing buildings room by room, crossing open streets under sniper fire, advancing through rubble with enemies behind every corner. The Garand's power could punch through walls, which meant you had to keep moving, keep engaging, stay exposed. And then came the reload. 8 rounds disappeared shockingly fast in a firefight. The clip ejected with that metallic ping. The rifle went silent. For those few seconds, you were defenseless. Many veterans remembered those moments as the longest of their lives, hands shaking from adrenaline, trying to push a new clip into the receiver while bullets cracked past your head. The pressure to reload fast, under fire, with the enemy knowing you were vulnerable. One Marine at Tarawa later wrote, "You'd hear that ping and your heart would stop, because you knew the Japs heard it too, and you knew they were counting. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, waiting for their chance." The psychological toll was immense. Unlike artillery crews or bomber pilots who never saw their targets clearly, Garand gunners engaged enemies at close and medium range. They watched bullets strike home. They saw the immediate results of every trigger pull. There was no distance between action and consequence. This intimacy with violence left many men shattered in ways that took decades to understand. Here's the brutal truth that haunted every soldier who carried the M1 Garand. It was both the best rifle in the war and the heaviest burden they'd ever carried. The same power that saved their lives also painted targets on their backs. The same speed that won firefights also meant they faced violence more directly, more intimately than soldiers with slower weapons. The same reliability that got them through hell also meant they couldn't blame their tools when things went wrong. Every outcome was on them. After the war, many veterans couldn't bring themselves to touch their service rifles. Gun shops reported that former soldiers would walk in, see an M1 Garand on the rack, and leave without a word. It wasn't hatred. It was something deeper, the weight of memory. One veteran explained it years later. "People ask if I want to buy my old rifle. They don't understand. It's not the 9.5 pounds of wood and steel I'm avoiding. It's the weight of every decision I made with that rifle in my hands. Every face I saw through the sights, every name I tried to forget. That weight never goes away." The M1 Garand wasn't just a rifle. It was a burden, a shield, and sometimes a final hope. It gave soldiers power, but demanded courage every time they stepped forward. Behind every famous ping and every clean shot was a man exposed to fear, noise, and death, trusting his life to training and steel. General Patton was right when he called it the greatest battle implement ever devised. But the men who carried it knew something Patton never said. The greatest weapons demand the greatest sacrifices from the men who wield them. War is often remembered through weapons. The tanks, the planes, the rifles that defined battles. But war is lived through people. The M1 Garand changed warfare forever, giving American soldiers an edge that helped win the deadliest conflict in human history. But that victory was purchased by men who walked into hell carrying 9.5 pounds of steel and the weight of impossible choices. Men who heard that metallic ping in their dreams for decades. Men who carried scars that never showed on their bodies. If you want more stories like this, where history is stripped down to what it really cost, subscribe to the channel. Like the video, share it, and stay with us for the stories history rarely tells. The ones about the people behind the weapons, the choices behind the victories, and the prices that were paid in full.